that is, I guess, Herzl's message. If you will it, it is not a dream. The origin of the state of Israel. But the origin is actually right here on Grand Island. And we have our 200th anniversary coming up in 2 years. We'll have to invite people from around the world to Buffalo. It'd be really fun. You know about the
I
stone?
didn't know. I thought it never actually came to pass. It was like a proposition. But did people actually move in at one point? Or
Yeah. So what happened is Emmanuel Noah, he saw the suffering in Europe, and he wanted to do something. So he brought property. He wanted, I guess, a state like that's. I didn't realize that it was like a state, like an American state almost. And he. Yeah, so there's a book about Buffalo that has, there's a lot of books. It's the beginning of Zionism. No one really made their way to Buffalo, no Jews, until 1850, about 1849, 1850.
Buffalo Historic Society has
Yeah.
the cornerstone.
Yeah, the cornerstone's the big thing. And for people that live on Grand Island. All right, let's take a nice deep breath of Shabbat air. We'll breathe in everything we want to hold on to, and we'll breathe out everything we want to let go of. Our week has been a jumble, like all weeks, and it's really vital that we decompress. Some of us have been around the world this week, and some of us, it feels like we've been around the world. But we come back together, really centering ourselves, providing the punctuation on our weeks, and preparation so that we can fully enjoy and immerse ourselves in the Sabbath. So nice deep breath in and out, breathing in everything we want to hold on to and breathing out everything we could just get rid of. Doesn't it feel better just to breathe? There, Bruce is ready. Okay, so Bruce, everything got shifted right. Now, were we
it should
in?
be on. I can control it if you want.
Were we in here last week?
We were.
Okay, so this is our second week here in our brand new sanctuary.
In the freshly painted sanctuary. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Welcome back, Rabbi Alex. The day before you got back, it was in the 60s and sunny, a little breezy, but in the 60s, 40 degrees warmer than it is today. And welcome to all of you, and welcome to those of you watching on the stream. I know that when the weather gets this cold, we don't get quite as many people here in the room, and we have more of you watching online. Oh, come on. You could have braved this tonight and joined us. It's not that bad out there. But it's nice to have the streaming option for when you don't feel like getting out there and braving the elements. So we have a lovely service planned tonight with the rabbi and the cantor who just left, but she's coming back. And lots of stuff coming up in the next couple weeks too. Big announcements coming up. And someone had a birthday yesterday. Should we sing? I think we should sing.
Okay, all right, let's
I
do
will
it.
sing.
We don't force her to sing.
We'll do it in English. We'll do the English.
Go, lead it.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Cantor. Happy birthday to you.
Thank
and
you.
many more. She spent her birthday doing a Purim spiel rehearsal with the band. So anyway, hope it was very nice. And I'll be back in a little bit. Again, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
The best thing we could do for Cantor's birthday is to sing on tune. So I want to begin before we light our candles. I have a poem. Last week I got to go to Har-El, which is the first Reform synagogue in Israel. It was started in the 1960s. It's a little tiny place right near Yamin Moshe, the German colony kind of area. And it is very sweet. There's a courtyard there, and you come in, and everyone greets you with smiles. It's just like Shir Shalom. It's beautiful. And my friend is the cantor there. His name is Evan Cohen. He and his wife, Miriam, was a good friend of my wife's, Shir's. They studied together. And it was so nice to see him, and he even gave me an aliyah. And it was so beautiful to be there last week because we read the 10 Commandments. So this is a poem I wrote about that experience. It's called The Hebrew Alphabet. Letters imprint themselves on walls, on bus steps, along alleyways. Even when they are not there, I see them on the turquoise fabric of a chair, running up and down the felt. As the cantor sings, I watch them fly like joyous birds across the small white room. These letters, these beautiful, precious letters, carried by my ancestors into Egypt and then out. We rise for the Decalogue. A woman sings the first letter in Aleph, the second a Nun. She has made it through the Zion for Zachor. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. I watch each syllable breathe. The letters have vanished, even as I reach to grasp the long leg of the final kaf. She kicks me awake. Pay attention. Everyone else has taken a seat. We're going to light our candles now. I'm going to invite Judy and Feldman to light our candles. The blessing can be found on 120. And many years ago, Marwin was the historian of the congregation. I learned from Marwin that actually boards of directors, wink, wink, well, Bruce, we got to incorporate that into our board, had historians as one of the key people. That was at Temple Beth, huh? Olam, Asher Kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'adlikner shel Shabbat. Amen. If you want to lift up the Kiddush cup there. And Cantor is going to lead us in the blessing 123.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu. Zikarbon le'maseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techilah le'mikra'ei kodesh, v'kadosh yat Mitzrayim, kifanu v'acharta, v'yotanu kidashta, Mikol habib v'shamat kodshecha ve'ahava uveratzon hinchavtanu. Baruch atah Adonai
Baruch Shemo.
Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen. L'chaim. If you're brave. It's a sweet wine. Now, way to look at Judy and Marwin. Marwin's kippah perfectly matches the turquoise on Judy's shirt. Turn around, just show everyone your kippah. It's so beautiful. Thank you, Mr. Koach. We're going to welcome in the angels of Shabbat, and Cantor's going to lead us in Shalom Aleichem, page 142.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Milalech, Malachei HaMalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon. Yimelech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Say to him, say to him, Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon. Milalech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Come, ye angels of Shabbat, come on our shoulders. Allow us to rest and relax and prepare for the Shabbat. We're going to sing Lecha Dodi in just a moment on page 138. During the service, I'm going to read intermittently some poems I wrote over the course of the week in Israel. I like to write. That's I hate taking pictures. So I figure, hey, while they're taking pictures, I'll just write a little poems. In Israel, they walk really fast. Did you notice that, Cantor, when you were there 2 years ago? They're just always speeding off. It's a little like New York. And you're trying to race to buses, to prayer services, wherever you're trying to go, and there's a lot of hills you're walking up and down. So for us Buffalonians come there, it was sort of like taking a step back. Actually, we had this one speaker, David Rosen, this amazing rabbi, who actually is in charge of the relations between Israel and the Vatican, and now Israel and all the Saudi Arabian, all the countries over there as well. So Muslim, Jewish, and Christian relations. He speaks so fast. I literally wanted to look on my phone and switch it from a 2, if you know podcast, back to a 1, because we were just catching up the whole time. I heard he speaks a little slower in Hebrew, actually. This is called Speedy Steps. How fast they walk in Jerusalem, uphill, down, no matter. They race as if each step would bring them one step closer to God. They talk fast as well, trying to fit in sentences before the words disperse for afternoon prayers. Walking the streets is like bumper cars. Stay balanced, walk with care. Never try to hold up the line at Machane Yehuda, especially by the bins of holy spice. Heaven forbid the Messiah was beside you, and you were the one that had prevented them from getting to where they were going. So we'll turn to Lecha Dodi. Again, page 138, we'll sing the first and the last verse. And on the last verse, we rise. We face Sheila over there. She is acting as our Shabbat bride over there.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, k'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, k'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, k'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. שמו ושחור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ותפארת לתחילה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, טוב כמוני עם סגולה, בואי כלה בואי כלה.
We wave to one another.
לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה.
I always say our kingly and queenly ways, but I'm going to now say our tourist wave. So we remain standing for the call to worship, Baruch, the call of community, page 146.
Ya la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Join with me. Ya la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la la la. Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Ya la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. La la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la.
We remain standing for Ahavat Olam, a song of love, page 150.
Ahavat olam et Yisrael, amcha ata. Torah u'mitzvot, hukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu, b'shokbeinu u'b'mkomeinu, nasiha berukacha, ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם היינו לאורך ימינו, והם נגד יומם ולילה. מאהבתך התעשי ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל.
On the next page, the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
You may be seated. We continue on the next page with the V'ahavta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות ידיך והיו לתותות בין עיניך וכתבתם המזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
One of the experiences I had on the trip was we went to the Dead Sea. How many of you have gone to the Dead Sea? And this was an optional trip. About half the group was it, but it was a priority. We learned from the Senate Majority, State Majority Leader, Crystal People-Stokes. She said the number one thing you have to do is go to the Dead Sea. So we put it into our trip. We went there on a morning. Everyone was so afraid it was going to be so cold. The water was warm. The air outside was pretty cold. On the way back, our bus driver had a sense of humor, and he loved to play popular music, and we're all singing to it. It was a beautiful moment on the trip. So this poem is called "We Are Family." Each of us carries our own struggles into the Dead Sea, then out. Washing the salt off in the shower, it still stings. The truth is, we just met. But on the bus ride back to Jerusalem, we sing with the sisters' sledge. The bus rocks back and forth to the beat, scooting past an irate driver into the tunnel. Our driver, Nessie, flashes the lights. Our hands up in the air, everyone singing. What could be bad? He really did. He's moving the bus back and forth like this. He's flashing the lights. He's hysterical. I had him on my last trip. He said, you'll know that, because it was hard to remember. It was 6 years ago. He said, no other driver plays a soundtrack while you're playing. So we are going to Micha Mocha, page 138. Oh, I think that's not the right page. Let me get you the right page. 158, make that, please. 158.
Ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 mi kamocha fa'edim Adonai mi kamocha bedam hakodesh narati lo osefele narati lo tosefele malechutcha raumanecha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe Ze'elianu ve'ameru Ze'elianu ve'ameru Adonai lo eolam va'ed Adonai lo eolam va'ed. Here we go. Ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 la
invite you to rise as we have our silent Amida, our silent meditation, which will begin on page 164 to page 180. Feel free to pray in the Hebrew, English, or just the prayers of your heart, and whenever you're ready, you may be seated. We're going to continue with a beautiful prayer. It's on page 659, a prayer for Jerusalem.
From the peak of Mount Scopus, Shalom, Jerusalem. From the peak of Mount Scopus, I bow down low before you. 100 generations have dreamed of you, dreamed of the privilege to bask in your light. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, smile on your children. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, out of the ruins I will rebuild you. Me'al Pisgah har hatzofim eshtachav velachab hayim me'al Pisgah har hatzofim shalom lach Yerushalayim me'am dorot chalamti alayim לזכור לראות באור פנייך ירושלים ירושלים הגידי פנייך לבנייך ירושלים Shalom, lach Yerushalayim, me'am dorot chalamti alayich, lizkot lirot be'or panayich. sing the Yerushalayim part with me. Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim, ha'iri panayir libnai, Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim, v'chotayich ivnei.
I feel like I'm back home in Jerusalem.
It's all for you, Rabbi.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Considering I feel a little jet lag still, so I feel like I'm half of my body's in Israel and half of it's here. So last week in Israel was a very trying time. I really haven't been to Israel where it hasn't been, but you might have noticed they had some of the biggest protests in the history of the country. I think they said there was about 300,000 people that were protesting in one day, which is quite a large percentage. It would be the equivalent of about 30 million people in America, percentage-wise, protesting at Washington, D.C. For those of you not aware, there's a lot of intrigue with the government, with the Knesset and the role of the judiciary. It's complicated, but it is quite something, and we did see a little bit of that. But we scheduled our trip early, so we left from Jerusalem right before the huge crowds were about to take over the city. We did, on the way out of Jerusalem, we were in Jerusalem about 4 or 5 days. On the way out, we sang Mishaberach, and this was a way of healing the city as well. We sing healing prayers by the Knesset. She is a source of blessing, our guide tells us. Sometimes, on the rare occasion, people get along. Tens of thousands of protesters are heading up the hills of Jerusalem. Can a city heal like a human being, or is it more like a broken table needing to be shipped off to be replaced? We are going to direct our attention and our prayers to a number of people, a lot of people. Believe me, Cantor was quite busy. We had a lot of people in need of prayers this week. I want to mention one in particular who's come to our area. His name is Hirsham. He is a Druze. That is a very small sect that the central leader for them is Yitro from the Bible. And they are mostly collected in Haifa area in Israel and also in Syria. And there is a gentleman, Hirsham, who's here with his brother, and I got to meet with him today. Wonderful, wonderful human being. He's traveled all the way over here to get experimental drugs to be saved. There's a very slim chance that it will work, but he's trying as hard as he can. And he's got a wonderful family. He has 7 siblings that are praying for him, a wife and 3. He has 4 children, and his whole community. Not only that, but his extended network. I told him I've never had someone so connected. I think I got 15 calls in 1 week from all over the world, really, of people trying to pray for him. So we'll keep him in our prayers. Barry Krebs as well. Let's keep him in our prayers. And David Silas, is that? Mm-hmm. We're also thinking about Jean Beck, Richard Zyback, Paula Charvella, Sue Frank, Ellen Frankie, Ida Frost, Alan Goldstein, Esther Green, Karen Greenfield, Gary Greenfield, Carolyn Grosser, Ernest Grosser, Bill Klein, Charlotte Krebs, Ruth Lansing, Miles Levy, Gail Lewis, Jill Shire Monahan, Karen Rosenfeld, Cheryl Rossi, Brandon Ryan, Gertrude Sloan, Alan Strauss, Mike Wheeler, Miriam Bat Razel, Avram Ben Rivka, Gasha bat Masha, Hannah Ezra ben Shuel, and Ruvain ben Morris. If you have other names, just raise your hand and we'll go around. We'll collect all those names in our hearts. Also, the people here will pray for one another as well. It's page 371.
Mishem berach avotenu bekol habracha leibotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing. And let us say, Amen. Mishem berach imotenu bekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema. The renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
A complete healing of body and soul. Shabbat Shalom. So here I am. First of all, for those of you not aware, I was away in Israel from last Wednesday. We left from Shir Shalom parking lot. People kept asking on our trip, where do you work? And I said, oh, it's right on Sheridan Drive. You mean where we left our cars? So we left from here because it was a nice parking lot to go, and we took a bus to Toronto on Wednesday morning last week. And we arrived in Tel Aviv and went to Jerusalem. Spent about 5 days over there. We went up north to the Haifa region for a night and then Tel Aviv for a few days and arrived back last night right after Cantor's rehearsal at about 9 o'clock. We were supposed to be in a little bit earlier, but the plane was a little bit delayed, about 45 minutes late. Anyways, it was great. One of the most amazing trips I've ever been on, and I really want to thank the community, your indulgence, Cantor and Joanne and Bruce, everyone for holding down the fort here. It was an investment that we went on. This was a unique trip, a trip that we did in some form 5.5 years ago, or a little more than 5 years ago. Back then it was a religious leaders trip. This one was called a civic leaders trip. And what that means is that we tried to identify people throughout Western New York who were in various different fields and who were leaders in those fields to come together and go to Israel, not just to have an experience in Israel, but to learn and grow together, become friends, and to be able to do work together when we arrive back. We had such an amazing group. I was leading the trip with Mara Coven-Gelman over at the Jewish Community Relations Council. We also had Sister Margaret Carney, who was one of our leaders, who was the head of St. Bonaventure, and Renee Petties-Jones, who is the head of the National Federation of Just Communities here. We identified there were 27 participants on the trip. Some of them were spouses or significant others, or there was a daughter of one of the participants on our trip. We had two superintendents of our school system, for the one for Williamsville and in Clarence, Darren Brown Hall, and Matt Frame, who's over in Clarence. We had, we had so many great people. We had our poet laureate, Jillian Hainsworth from Buffalo, a young black activist here. We had people from Crystal Stokes' office, as well as our congregants, Karen McMahon and Jeff Marcus, Karen who represents Amherst here in the government. It was just we had one of the people in charge of SUNY schools, a trustee over there as well. It was an incredible group. They were so good at the end. The tour guide and all the people in the tour group, the people that led us, they didn't want to go to another group. They stayed with us as long as they could. They were really, really nice people, interesting people. We had a Supreme Court judge of New York State was one of the people that was on our trip. And most of us did not know each other prior. That was kind of the point. We met, we did have several events before we went, but really coming together on the trip was the point. And we really had quite an experience. I think everyone is coming off trying to decompress. We were meeting with every single possible person. We went to the Dead Sea. That was our one moment to breathe. Everything else was trying to really soak in as much information as we could. And the point, as I said, was not necessarily to learn about Israel, but was to learn about Western New York. And you might ask, well, why would you go to Israel to learn about Western New York? In order to solve the problems in your own community, it is extremely helpful to go to somewhere else that has similar problems to what you're dealing with, to learn how they're doing it, and then come back and see what ideas and what other things come of that. And you might say, what does Israel, how is the problems in Israel and here in Buffalo, what do they have anything to do with one another? We're here in America, we have our particular brand of community. They don't have Bills over there. Even when you go to a kippah shop, they have the Yankees. I really didn't see Bills very much. What is it that's in common? I think it was best stated. We met with Mohammed Darshwe, who is this incredible Arab in Israel, an Arab Israeli, who is really the person who understands the way the system works, especially in the Arab population in Israel. And he works at a place that is about shared society, how to build a shared society. And he spends his days trying to figure out how to make Israel a little bit more accepting of an environment, especially of its Arab Israeli population. And listening to him, he was quoting all these statistics. Statistics like, by the time people go to university, which in Israel is 19 or 20, because you go to the army service first, 99% of Israelis and Arab Israelis and Jewish Israelis have never met one another. They have never interacted. So they come into college, and where do they sit? One sits over there, one sits over here. There is absolutely no, he said that there is 0.6% of the population that meets each other in any meaningful way, and 0.4% is because of the work that he was doing in the shared society. He brings high school students together in this, they have a huge campus that's run through the government and is like a kibbutz education center. And there, they work together, they meet together, they learn one another, and that is all that is happening. But he looked at societies. He started quoting some statistics, like I said, about the almost 99% of the population not meeting. Well, look here in Buffalo. What did we learn after the 514 shooting? That we are the sixth most segregated community in the country, and that 90% of blacks and whites don't meet each other, have meaningful interaction on any given day. It's not exactly the same statistic, but we have similar divides in our society. And what did we learn from Mohammed? Darshwe, sorry, his name is a little hard to pronounce for me. So what did we learn? That they looked at the problem of education at the university. 3% of the Arab population was going to the university, and there's about 20% of Arab population within Israeli society. So they looked at it, how do we solve this? And they started looking at all the different problems. What are some of the problems? What are some of the obstacles that you would think? Well, Hebrew. So first of all, they have a segregated educational system. You might say, what does that have to do with Buffalo? Look at our education system, completely segregated for the most part, mostly along racial divide. So what did they do? They realized that in these schools, they are learning basically Hebrew for fifth graders and having to fill out and do the testing for university at the Israeli population, the Jewish Israeli population, is 7 grades above them when they're taking the test. So of course their scores are way down. So they looked at that problem, and what did they do? They decided they needed to bring in Jewish teachers that could teach them Hebrew at the highest level. So that's what they did. They brought in, I think, 500 different teachers across the different schools over there. And voila, a number of years passed. I think this was 15 years ago they do it. Now it is almost 20% of the population of the university. They rebalanced overnight the population. For us listening to this, it is possible to change what we are doing in the community. Listening to everything going around, and it was especially with the ear, especially for most of the group, was listening, how do we solve what happened on May 14th? How do we solve the divide in this society, just like the similar divide that they have in Israel? We went to places like Bethlehem. We actually stood right beside the wall, the security wall that was built some 15 years ago. And there's a little shop, Claire's shop over here, and the wall is here. It used to be right next to Rachel's tomb, so this was a huge store. Now she has a one-way road in front of her, and it's so confusing because cars drive down, but they forget it is one way now. It has been blocked off on the other side, and they have to turn around. So she has to figure out how to do that. How do you figure out how to come around this? On one hand, you have a wall that was stopping a lot of violence that was happening. I was there. I know what the situation was like. 4 of the worst years in Israel's history, from 2000 to 2004. The wall stopped the violence that was going around, but it created a reality that is extremely complicated. We met with Ethiopians. This was some of the most fantastic things. I had never done this on the trip. We met with this woman. Her name was Waga, and she is part of this, really the second generation. She was born actually in Ethiopia. For those of you not familiar with the story, in the mid-1980s, many different Ethiopian Jews, and these are Jews that go back to temple times. And they actually, she told me, when the European Jews, us, came in contact with the Ethiopian Jews said, "You mean there are Jews with white skin?" You know, they were completely cut off from the rest of the Jewish world. And during a time where there was persecution because of their faith, they decided, a group of 4 or 5 of their elders decided that they needed to actually walk across the Sudan all the way to Israel. And actually 4,000 or more people lost their lives. We don't know exactly how many on that journey, but it was very, very perilous. And then in 1992, there was another exodus that was done in negotiation with the Israeli government and over in the Ethiopian government because of political change over there. And then you had another group that came by airplane, so it was a little less dangerous. But they came into a society that was completely foreign. She told a story about how they had no idea what a refrigerator was. So they thought it was a closet. And they opened up the refrigerator, put in their clothing, and wondered why it was cold in the morning. They had never seen this. They had never seen a bathroom. So they would hold it in and sneak off because they knew it was kind of uncomfortable to pee outside, but that's the only way that they knew. Now we're talking 30 years later since that second Exodus, and she had come, she was just like 1 or 2 when she came over. It is a community establishing itself, trying to figure out what its identity is. And you have these groups of people that came, either they were born here or there, but they were very young, and they came over and they are ready to tell the story of the Ethiopian Jews. They are ready to come back to their own heritage. They're starting restaurants, they're cultural centers, all these things in order to be at peace. We learned how important an identity is. You have to have a feeling in yourself of pride in some ways of where you came from. That gives you the strength to do everything that you can. We learned from another Ethiopian woman who had started these restaurants here. She had actually trained to become a lawyer and was working as a lawyer for the government. But she was very sad. She felt it in her soul that she was not settled. And so she left everything and decided to invest herself fully in learning about her roots. And she came out of this with such pride. She actually taught us the Ethiopian dances, the popular Ethiopian dances. They're so interesting and so different than what the types of dances that we have. And you could see just the impact that it made on her. All of these different ways and all of these different things were us learning about them and learning, for me, as someone who's been to Israel many times, learning about how these different populations. We went down to the West Bank as well, something we did last time. We learned from a group called Roots, which are settlers and the local Arab population who have bridged the divide. They went and they said that the peace process broke down because you didn't deal with the extremes. In order to make peace, you can't start in the middle with the people that don't understand what's going on over here. You start here and you get to the middle. And it's amazing. We met with this one Arab man named Noor. He's just a young man. Last time I saw him 5 years ago was his first year doing this. Now he's an expert in it. He's able to share his story and really teach and grow in that way, side by side with settlers who came over in Gush Etzion. We were right at the heart of the West Bank. All of these things have echoes here in Western New York. Most poignant for our group. And our group really came to love each other in a very, very meaningful way. There is something about that bond of being together and really sharing that space and learning the stories, going through Yad Vashem. Every time I say, I can't do it again. It's too hard. And every time I come, and tears are streaming down my face every time. But it is one of the more impactful things. We had Jillian Hainsworth came through as the young black activist. We come to the other side, and the whole point of the museum is you're going from darkness to light. You're coming out and you're seeing the natural, you're going out of the technology that the Nazis used to destroy and dehumanize, and you come out into the Jerusalem hills, and you feel the nature. She came out and she said, you emerge from your journey? What about us? Those are the kind of questions that just kept coming up over and over and over again. How do we solve the intractable problems? In Israel, I learned, the lines are visible. You can look on a map to know where the divide is in society. You know exactly where different villages are, which population, whether it's the ultra-Orthodox or the moderate Orthodox or the secular or the Arab Israelis or the Palestinians. You know where people live. They live and they identify themselves, and it is a point on the map. Here in Buffalo, things are more invisible. And we struggle with, because it's invisible, we don't have language even to describe what we're having. So that is part of what our challenges here, coming here. But one of the most poignant moments was on our final dinner. And Jillian told us that the trial was, the sentencing was happening here in Western New York. And this is something that she had worked so tirelessly on, working with and supporting the families, a very emotional time. And here we are, I don't know how many thousands of miles away. it's a lot from Buffalo. And this major moment in our community's history is happening. And we're here just after the meal. We've had this delicious meal, and everything, of course, is online here, and you can listen to the trial and the sentencing as we speak. And suddenly on the bus, the verdict comes through. And you could just see one person crying on another person's shoulder. The emotions of that. And here we are, thousands of miles from able to be doing anything about it. But just what we've been through this year as a community, how to move forward, what to do. So I'm going to have a lot to unpack about what we went through, and it's going to take years to settle out. What we were hoping for, and this was a trip funded by our Jewish Federation. We're really thankful. Rob and Cher Goldberg were on the trip as well. Fully paid for, other than the plane tickets for the participants. What we are hoping for is, when there are things coming, for people to share ideas. I need help solving this. Can you help me? Can you come to this event? This tragedy happened. Can you be there? We will know the impact of all these circles we're trying to create when those things happen. And I'll tell you, from the last trip that we went on, which was, again, 5 years ago, 2017 in December, we knew the impact on the Tree of Life attack. When the first people that are there at Beth Tzedek are the people that were on that trip. We knew the impact on May 14th, or May 15th, standing around in the circle when Mark Blue invited me in to be able to share words, and we shared a hug. That was because of a journey that we had gone on. When we go away from our homes, as hard as it is, and I feel, thank you, I'm so thankful to Cantor here for holding things up, Joanne, everyone that is in this community. It makes a huge difference. It's 8 days, it's a long day, believe me. Thank you, Ashir, I love you so much. It's worthwhile, though. It's the only way to really build the bonds that will last beyond and enable us to trust one another and to do what we need to do in this world, because we have a lot of problems to solve here in Buffalo. We learned in Israel, we're not going to solve all those problems. We'll start step by step. But if we can solve some of them, maybe we'll get a little further than we are. Maybe our city will be less divided than it is. Maybe we can create a society, and maybe we can bring our Israeli friends here, show them what we've done, so that they can learn and grow where they are. May it be so. May it be so. I'll conclude with one other poem. I wrote a lot. I just kept writing. All right, so I'll read this one. Song of Ascension. I thought of all the things that rise, light, air, people, mountains. The cedars of Lebanon over the church walls. The people from their kneeling position on the floor. The pigeons collecting in the town square. Flowers, clouds, children. Your God, my prophet, her savior. The man screaming out in anger. Our tour group at each stop of the trip. The folds of the fabric of my jeans. My emotions as we enter the room. Rocket ships, companies, toddlers. And one more thing, smoke from flames caught on wicks, unwilling to let go. To a better world. I've stunned you all into silence, I think. Okay. All right. I think we're ready for Aleinu and Naomi. Where are you? Naomi, come on up and open our ark for us, please. Do us that great honor. We are in Aleinu. Please rise, page 586.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמענו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגוב עלינו ככל המונם, אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 591.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ויאמר הוא ויאמר יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
You may be seated. We turn to the Mourner's Kaddish, page 598. As we're thinking about from Shiva for Sharon Krebs, Barry is in Toronto with his family. And we really thank there's a number of people that stepped up to support him during that time. Thank you. We have Helene Silas here. She lost her brother, Hyman Polikoff. It was very sudden, and we send our blessings to her. We are also remembering Joan Cinta, Mary Lou Lugalbo, and Marilyn Zucker. On our Shloshim list from the past month, we remember Doreen Brockman Gold, Joe Celeste, Myrna Jerzoniski, Mitchell Klein, Ganesha Rabinovich, Barry Swadron, Sylvia Wisnoff, and Marlene Zubin DeCarlo. On our yard site list? From our yard site prayer, for our yard site anniversaries in the years past, we're remembering Abraham Ackerman, Robert Bass, Ruth Bergman Cohen, Samuel Berman, Dorothea Brooks, Fanny Brown, Joel Camhigh, Donald Campbell, Joel Caviar, Alan Cowan, Alan Crandall, Beverly Engel, Chelsea Engel, Harry N. Faxstein, Laura Feldman, Jack Freed, Martin Friedlander, Deborah Gummins, Barbara Heyman, Alex Jaffe, Molly Jacoby, Sarah G. Callett, Henry E. Katz, Dorothy Clampert, Richard Nightinger, James Lackner, Rebecca Margulis, Lillian Zager Nateris, Clarice Mendelevici, Benjamin Nosnitsky, Bernard Painter, Betty Pellis, Ray Pleskin, Susan Rosenbaum Ritchie, Hannah Seitz, Barney Silverman, Sophie S. Small, Anna Sugarman, Andrea Valenta, Vincent Vici, Saul Weinstein, and Rose Weisbrot. If there's other names you'd like to say? Yeah. All those whose custom it is to rise, page 598. Yit Gadal, Yit Kadash, Shemei Rabbah, V'alma, Divrach, Hirte, V'yamlik Malchute, V'chayechon, V'yamachon, V'chayei, Dechol Beit Yisrael, V'galau, V'zman Kariv, V'yimramein, Yehei Shmei Rabbah, Mevorach, Leolam, Omeo Maya, Yitbarak, V'yishtabak, V'yitpa'ar, V'yitramam, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitalal, Shemei Dekudashah, B'rechu, Leila min kol berchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechamata, damiran v'alma v'yimramein, yehi shlamar abamin shemaya, v'chayim alena v'al kol Yisrael v'yimramein, oseh shalom v'yimramav, huya seh shalom, alena v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yimramein. May God grant peace to all those who are bereaved, and to the souls of those we've lost, and to our world, and we say Amen. You may be seated. Zikronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. We'll invite Bruce up to offer the announcement. We made you walk there.
Yeah, I've got my steps in. Shabbat Shalom again, everyone. And again, welcome back, Rabbi. And of course, our condolences on your Eagles. Speaking of...
I did watch the game.
I'm sure, yeah.
3 in the morning. It was 1 in the morning till 4 or 5.
Well, it wasn't worth staying up for. So speaking of the rabbi and cities in Pennsylvania, I want to talk a little bit about our trip coming up to Pittsburgh, because the rabbi is joining in on that trip, which is really, really cool. This is the proposed Jewish community bus trip to Pittsburgh, June 4th and 5th. Nancy Magori in our office has worked very hard to put this together. It includes things like an optional Pittsburgh Pirates baseball game, or a bus tour of the city, dinner on the 25th floor of the hotel, a boat cruise, a tour of the 150-year-old temple Rodef Shalom, and its botanical garden, and a tour of Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Waters. This is, of course, a trip there by bus and transportation everywhere. They have extended the deadline by February 22nd, which is this coming Wednesday, to please let Nancy know if you are interested. This is not a financial obligation. We just need to gauge the level of interest to see if it can move forward. So if you're interested at all, please reach out to Nancy in our office. The reason, by the way, the rabbi is so excited about going is going to that Pittsburgh Pirates game, because I don't know if you know this, but the rabbi was quite the baseball player in his younger days. He was a pitcher, and unfortunately his ERA was high, which, as you know, is high. But anyway, so talk to Nancy about that if you're interested in it. It really is a wonderful trip she's put together. Thank you, of course, to the rabbi and cantor for a lovely service tonight. Thank you to Sheila Bernard Tucker for serving as our greeter this evening. Tomorrow morning, our virtual offering is Torah study at 9 o'clock via Zoom. Shabbat morning service and Kiddush luncheon will be in person, 10:45. That's at Temple Beth Tzedek. The Purim Spiel, we are rocking and rolling and getting ready for the Purim Spiel, which is Monday, March 6th. It is a Beach Boys Purim Spiel. Beach Boys music. How can you go wrong? Help me, Rabbi. Help me, Rabbi. That's not even in it. The stuff that's in it is way better than what I'm singing each week. Oh, you were playing? That's right. You were here Sunday. Yeah, we had a rehearsal in here, and they're playing pickleball in there, so we're serenading them. Did we not sound good? It pumped you up, didn't it? Pumped you up. Anyway, so the spiel is March 6th. We're going to be rehearsing all weekend long. She is a taskmaster.
All weekend, every weekend.
She is a taskmaster like you wouldn't believe, but it's going to pay off. The thing is going to sound great. By the way, there will also be an Hamantash and Onig of course, it's Purim. You got to have Hamantashen. So there will be a Hamantashen Onig following the spiel, which is Monday, March 6th at 7 o'clock. Thank you to everyone, speaking of the Eagles, thank you to everyone who supported our Super Bowl squares. That was a fundraiser, and it benefited the community religious school. Speaking of which, there is no community religious school Sunday due to the February break. That will be back, that's 2 weeks. So it's not this week or next week. They have a long break. They will be back on Sunday, March 5th. The Women of Shir Shalom will be meeting this Wednesday at 7 o'clock p.m. And of course, as Rabbi mentioned, we lost Women of Shir Shalom President Sharon Krebs last week very suddenly. We appreciate everything that Sharon has done for our congregation. She will be missed. Our Chai Club drawings are going to continue every Wednesday through Purim. Tickets are $18. 3 winners every week, $18, $36, and $54. Grand prize drawings will be drawn the night of the spiel. That's $180, $360, and $540. And of course, if you win, your ticket gets thrown back in, so you have another chance to win. You have many more chances. Speaking of pickleball, Judy was here on Sunday. I saw her out there. She was vicious with that thing, let me tell you. I mean, there are dents in our newly painted walls because of her already. Anyway, the next pickleball open plays will be not this Monday, Monday, February 27th, and Wednesday, March 1st. So pickleball is taking a break this week. Apparently it's winter break for pickleball as well. So we have open plays Monday, February 27th, Wednesday, March 1st, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Please remember to wear court shoes, which of course are sneakers. If you have any questions, contact our head pickle guy, David Sapphire, or of course, Joanne. Winterfest is coming Saturday, April 25th, 7:30 p.m. Band, dancing, lots of fun. Space is limited. What? Did I say April? It's going to be a small crowd, isn't it? Saturday, March 25th, which of course is still winter. So it could be winter and Winterfest at the same time. 7:30 p.m. It's in our freshly painted and newly decorated social hall. It's going to be great. So please, and space is limited because it's an indoor event, unlike the outdoor one last summer. We are limiting the capacity for social distancing and all of that. So please get your RSVP in by March 17th, or unless spaces run out by then. So get your reservation in. Lots more. That's just the taste of what we have coming up. We have many more things coming up. Their upcoming events are in your service leaflet. Take it home with you. Post it on your refrigerator. Memorize it. We will have a test next week. If you need anything, please feel free to reach out to the rabbi now that he's back from Israel. Call him anytime. We left him alone for a week. He'll take your calls day or night. He's here for you. The cantor and Joanne, myself, regular business hours.
I think I'm going back to Israel.
Might be wise. Anyway, and of course Todd down there in Florida where it's much warmer than it is here. Call him anytime. He's here for you as well. If you would, we're going to have a lovely onig. I saw cakes. We have cakes tonight. That's always good.
We have chalva from Israel too. I brought some chalva. You know,
chalva, the candy. Mm-hmm. Oh, ooh, halva, ooh. Anyway, if you would like to sponsor an onig for a special occasion, or for no occasion whatsoever, or just because you like desserts, talk to Joanne. She'll be happy to take care of you. Shabbat shalom again, everyone, and welcome back to you, and happy birthday to you.
So Sheila gave me a beautiful poem. I'm going to read it quickly. When Rabbi is away. When Rabbi Alex is away, we pray for his safe travels. In our hearts, we can't wait for his safe return, hoping nothing here unravels. Checking Facebook for his photos daily, there he is with his knowing smile. We cannot wait to have him stand at the bima, sharing his journey, telling great stories all the while. Like a parent returning home to his family, our Rabbi Alex returns to us as well. We anxiously await his presence on our bima with laughter and tales to tell. Welcome home, Rabbi Alex, our precious Rabbi, finally home. We excitedly wait to see the smile on your face reuniting us all at Shir Shalom. Thank you, Sheila.
That's cute.
Always so cute. Okay, we're going to conclude with Hatikva, since this was very Israel-oriented Shabbat, page 678. Please rise.
Nefesh Yehuda
Israel this year, 75th birthday. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. As you came in peace, please leave in peace. Please bring your prayer books to the front and bring out the leaflet and return them. And please enjoy. There's wonderful cakes. Shabbat shalom.